Saudi Arabia is deeply conservative. It abides by a puritanical, literalist, orthodox understanding of Islam. And that has defined the kingdom since its founding under the House of Saud. There's been progress, there's been modernization, there are highways and television and skyscrapers, but it remained deeply conservative, and it took a turn towards even more conservative values and conservative society after 1979, which is a pivotal year in the region. Mohammed bin Salman wanted to change that narrative, and he did pose as a social, cultural modernizer. He did introduce music, theater, cinema to this conservative kingdom, and as well as more access to social media. He traveled to Silicon Valley, he met with Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, he visited American universities in an effort to portray himself as the modernizer of Saudi Arabia. This is all great to some extent, but opening up cinemas and theaters and even allowing women to drive. Saudi Arabia was the only country in the world where women were not allowed to drive. Even allowing that does not make Mohammed bin Salman a modern, progressive political leader. It just means that he's making it possible to diffuse some of the frustrations and the tensions within society in the kingdom that could risk sinking the whole country if they blow up, because these conservative attitudes and this insularity almost of life in the kingdom was could have driven a lot of young Saudis towards more protests or violence or even religious extremism. So that's how I would categorize how Mohammed bin Salman is a modernizer. He is not bringing political freedoms or transforming the kingdom into anything but what it is today, which is an absolute monarchy. The United Arab Emirates are very diverse, but let's focus on Abu Dhabi and Dubai. They are much more permissive because they have a very large expatriate population. The local population is only 300,000, for example, in Dubai. And that means that it has to be de facto much more open, much more modern in the lifestyle and what is allowed and what is possible in the Emirates. You have cinemas, you have alcohol, you have restaurants, you have the free mixing of men and women. So on the face of it, the United Arab Emirates have already been very modern culturally and socially for a very long time. But again, politically, it is not progressive, it is not liberal, and it is in fact, by some standards, quite authoritarian. Mohammed bin Zayed is on the same page to some extent as Mohammed bin Salman in that regard, that it's important to show an outwardly progressive, modern, diverse face so that the West will not criticize the more authoritarian conduct of the authorities domestically. That's how I would quantify or caveat how modern these two leaders are.